Welcome. Be'ez Hashem, we begin Daf Be'ez and Aleph at the two dots together. Omar Mar. The Mishnah tells us the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is Mishasha HaKohanim Nichnasim Le'echa B'Trumasan. Ask the Gemara Michti, Kohanim Emas Ka'achli Truma. When is it that they can eat their Truma? Mishas Seisa Kachavim. At the time of Seisa Kachavim. Listening Mishas Seisa Kachavim. So then why doesn't the Tana teach that the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is from Seisa Kachavim? Says the Gemara, Milsa Agav Orche Kamash Malon. Our Tana wants to teach us something else in addition. Kohanim Emas Ka'achli B'Truma. When is it that the Kohanim eat their Truma? Mishas Seisa Kachavim. From the time of Seisa Kachavim. That means that there are really three stages when it comes to eating something when a person is tamei. The first, we'll call it stage, is when a person wants to eat kachim kalim. If he wants to eat the meiser sheni in Yerushalayim and it becomes tamei, the bailim has to then go into the mikvah, and then he can eat the kachim kalim, he can eat the meiser sheni. However, if it's a kohen who becomes tamei, and he wants to eat truma, it's not sufficient just to be metar himself in the mikvah. He has to then go to the mikvah, and he has to wait till hariv shemesh tzeis hakoychovim, then he can eat the truma. However, there's a third madrega. If the kohen becomes a zov, which is more severe in his state of tuma, and he wants to eat kachim, then he has to then have not only going to the mikvah and hariv shemesh, but he also must have a kapara in order to then bring a korban to eat the kachim, the korban. That, our Gemara says, when a kohen eats truma, he doesn't have to then have that kapara. Let us see. V'ho kamash malon, and our Tana comes to teach us, the kapara loy ma'akva, that a kapara is not necessary in order to eat truma. Kedetanya, like that it says in the Braisa. Ubo hashemesh v'toher bias shimshoy ma'akavtoy mele'echo b'tshuma ve'en kaparosa ma'akavtoy mele'echo b'tshuma. The sun setting is what's necessary to enable the kohen to eat truma, and he does not need a kapara in order to eat truma. Ask the Gemara, umemai. The Gemara challenges this brayso. Umemai dahayu bo hashemesh bias hashemesh. How do we understand that the biash hashemesh, the sun setting, that is enough to bring tahara, v'hai v'tor tor yoimo, that the day itself is enough to be complete in order to bring the tahara for the kohen to eat the truma? Dilma bias oiroi, who maybe it requires already the next morning. Umay v'torah, Torah gavra, whereby the gavra, the kohen himself, brings a korban, gaining a kapor, then he's enabled to eat the truma. Omar Rabba barav shilo, imkein lema kro v'toher. My v'toher. Let it say with the tzivui that a person, the kohen, should become toher. Why does it say v'toher in the past tense? Toher yoima. It's referring to the day. Kida'amrei inshi, like people say, Irav shimsho ve'ad ki yoimo. The day is when the sun sets. It's a complete day. Ve'ad ki yoimo, and the day becomes tohor. B'ma'aravo hoderabo barav shiloi lo shmir lohu. In the west, referring to Eretz Yisrael, they did not hear that which was asked in regards to Rabba Barav Shiloi. Ubo lo, and they asked the question, Mi boy, Hi Ubo Hashemesh bias shimshoi, who Uma v'torah Torah yoimo, or Dilma bias oirohi, Umay v'torah Torah gavra. The same question that we just asked before, they wanted to ask there in Eretz Yisrael. They didn't hear the answer. O Dilma bias oirahu, or maybe it's the going on the day itself. Umay v'torah Torah gavra. V'hodar pashta la mi brisa. They answered their question with the following brisa. Midiktani bebrisa simin ledovar tzeis hakoychavim. From the fact that the brisa says simin ledovar tzeis hakoychavim. Shma mina bi'ashim shehu umay v'toher toher yoima. It refers to therefore the sun setting a complete day, which is tzeis hakoychavim, and that's the beginning of being able to read Kriya Shema Shel Arvis. Omar Mar, quoting again the Mishnah that says, Misha shahakayhanim nichnasim le'echa b'trumasan. Now the Gemara brings a brisa to challenge. V'aminu me'emasai karne shema be'arvin. When is the earliest time a person can say Kriya Shema Shel Arvis? Misheha'oni nichnas le'echa pitoi b'melech. Here the Brisa says the earliest time to say Kriya Shema begins when an ani begins eating his suda, his pas b'melach, and the end of the time a person can still say Kriya Shema Shel Arvis is when he's finished with his suda. Says the Gemara, Seifa vaday pliga amas nisim. The Seifa that says you can only eat until the ani finishes, you can only say Kriya Shema until the ani finishes his su'udah, that certainly is arguing on our Mishnah, because our Mishnah only said either until the end of the first Ashmur, that's Rabbi Eliezer, or according to the Chachamim and Rabbi Gamaliel, until Amud HaShachar. So says the Gemara, Reisha milema pligi amasnin. But however, who said that the Reisha is arguing on our Mishnah? Maybe the ratio of this brisa that the ani begins eating his suda by being toivel his pas in his melach, that's the same time as our zman over here of tzeis hakoychavim. Gemara says, yeah, lo ani v'kohen chad shi'irahu. They are the same shiur. The Gemara takes on at this point that it's the same shiur tzeis hakoychavim. Now the Gemara challenges further. V'aminu me'emasai matchilin likroy Kriya Shema be'arvis misha shebnei adam nichnasin le'echol piton be'arvei shabbos. Div Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is when bnei adam begin their suda on erev Shabbos. V'chachamim oimrim misha shehakayhanim zakoin le'echol b'trumasan. And the Chacham say, from the time that the Kohanim can begin eating their truma, which is Tzeis HaKochavim. So here you clearly see that Rabbi Meir is arguing on the Chachamim. The Brisa says, Simin Ledovar, Tzeis HaKochavim. So now parenthetically, the Gemara shows how this Brisa that says Simin Ledovar is not a true raya, but a remez. So if you have a pen or a pencil, you can put a parenthesis around the following 6 lines or so. Even though there's not a true proof that indeed the time to say Kriya Shema is Tzeis HaKochavim, the earliest time, but there is still a zeicher, a remez, shene'emar, as it says in the following verse, Va'anachnu oisim b'melacha v'chetziam machzikim b'merachim me'alos hashachar ad tzeis hakoychavim. That the malacha that they did was from alos hashachar until tzeis hakoychavim. Ve'oimer, and it says ve'hoyu lonu halayla mishmar ve'hayoim malacha, and it calls the day to be malacha. My ve'oimer, why does the Gemara bring ve'oimer? Because v'chi teima michi arva shimsha leilyahu v'inu demachashchi umekadmi. If you'll say that when is it that the sun setting, when we say Tzeis HaKochavim is the end of the day, that's only because these workers, they worked till late and they got up early. Therefore, we bring the verse that says that the day is a day of malacha. Objectively, kasaka da'ich the ani. Now, at the end of those parentheses, and now the Gemara goes back to then trying to maintain that the ani who begins his su'uda is the same zman as Seisei Chachavim, our Mishnah. Kasaka daitach the ani ubnei adam chad shi'urahu. If you want to suggest that the ani and bnei adam, which is Rabbi Meir's opinion, who begin their suda on Erev Shabbos, is the same zman, the iyam is ani v'koyin chad shi'urahu, and you also still want to maintain that the shear of the ani and the shear of the kohen is the same, then chachamim hainu Rabbi Meir. That can't be, because Rabbi Meir is choylek on the chachamim. We saw in this latter brisa that the chachamim say their opinion of Tzeis HaKoichavim, and yet Rabbi Meir says that the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is when Bnei Adam begin their Suda on Erev Shabbos. So certainly they are cholek on the chachamim. He is cholek on the chachamim and does not agree that it's Tzeis HaKoichavim. Ela Shema Mina Ani Shi'ura Lechud, the Kohen Shi'ura Lechud. Because we wanted to say that the shear of the Ani is the same as the shear of Bnei Adam who eat on Erev Shabbos. Therefore, we are not able to say at this point then that the Ani is the same shear as the Kohen, Tzeis HaKoichavim. Gemara says, Lo, Ani v'Kohen chad shi'urahu. You can maintain that the Ani who begins his Suda and the shear of the Kohen who can eat their Truma, the Hainu Tzeis HaKoichavim, that's the same shear. They both agree. Ubnei Adam, and that which Rabbi Meir said, that Bnei Adam who eat their Suda early on Erev Shabbos, Lav Chad Shirahu, it's not the same shiur. Now the Gemara challenges that which it tried to maintain, that an Ani and a Kohen is the same shiur, the earliest times to say Kriya Shema, Dahainu Tzeis HaKoichavim. The Ani v'Kohen Chad Shirahu, is indeed an Ani and a Kohen the same shear of Tzeis HaKoichavim? V'aminhu, we have the following brisa: Me'emasai matchil nikrois Kriya Shema be'arvin, misho shekidesh hayoim be'arvei shabbosos. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is the opinion that the time that you can begin saying Kiddush hayoim, and bringing in Shabbos, which is during Ben HaShmoshois, already then you can say Kriya Shema. Rabbi Yehoshua Oimer Mishasha HaKohanim Mituharim Lecha B'Trumosan. That's our shear of Tzeis HaKoichavim, the shear that we say in the Mishnah according to the Chachamim. Rabbi Meir Oimer, Rabbi Meir says Mishasha HaKohanim Toivim Lecha B'Trumosan. At the time that the Kohanim are toivil themselves in the mikvah to eat their truma, which is before Ben Hashmoshois. Amru Loi, Rabbi Yehuda says back to Rabbi Meir, how could that be at such an earlier time that a person can say Kriya Shema before Ben Hashmoshois? V'haloi kohanim mibod yom hem toivlim. They are toivil themselves before the Ben Hashmoshois, and therefore when it says b'shach becha, that means people are lying down to sleep. And therefore there can't be that the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is at such an early point. People are not yet lying down. The Gemara is going to answer on behalf of Rabbi Yehuda in a little bit. Another opinion, Rabbi Chanina Oimer Mishashe Ani Nichnas Lecho Pita B'Melach. The time that an Ani enters to eat his Pita B'Melach. Oh, so we begin to see that this is already not consistent with the opinion of Kohanim, of Tzeis HaKoichavim. Rabbi Achai v'Rami Lo, Rabbi Acho Oimer Misha Sheroi Bnei Adam Nichnasin Lahesev. When people enter to order to then recline and begin getting ready for their Su'udah. Says the Gemara now, V'amris Ani v'Kohen Chad Shi'urahu, and if you want to then maintain that indeed an Ani is the same shear as the Kohanim of Tzeis HaKoichavim, Rabbi Chanina Hainu Rabbi Yehoshua. That can't be, because Rabbi Chanina is the opinion of Ani, And Rabbi Yoshua brings the opinion of Kohen. And we know Kohen, therefore, who said Tzeisach HaChavim, can't be the same shiur as Ani. Elala Shmamina shiur de Ani lechud v'shiur de Kohen lechud. Shmamina. And now the Gemara concludes that indeed, these are different shiurim. The shiur of the Ani is not the same shiur as the Kohen. The shiur of the Kohen is Tzeisach HaChavim. Now ask the Gemara, Hai meinayu me'uchar. Which one is later, the shiur of the Ani or the shiur of the Kohen? Mistaber the Ani me'uchar. It's mistaber to say that the Ani indeed is later than that of Tzeisach HaChavim of the Kohen. The Amr is the Ani mukdam, because if you want to suggest that the Ani is earlier, Rabbi Chanina Hainu Rabbi Eliezer, then that's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that says Ben Hashmashos. Elala Shmamina the Ani Me'uchar Shmamina. Rather, we must conclude that indeed Ani is later than that shiur of Tzeisach HaChavim of the Kohen. Now the Gemara brings back the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, who challenges Rabbi Meir. Omar Mar, Omar le Rabbi Yehuda, vehaloi kohanim mi ba'od yoim heim toivlim. Hare, kohanim toivil themselves mi ba'od yoim, which is before ben hashmashos. Certainly that is not a fulfillment of a shoch becha. People do not lie down to go to sleep so early. The Gemara comments, Shapir ka'omar le Rabbi Yehuda le Rabbi Meir. This was a good taina that Rabbi Yehuda has on Rabbi Meir. L'chara. Rabbi Meir kahachi kamar le. But Rabbi Meir will then respond the following. Mi savris da'ana aben hashmashos didoch ka'amina. Who said that I hold of your ben hashmashos? Rabbi Yehuda maintains ben hashmashos is 9 minutes before the Tzeisach HaChavim. And therefore they had to be toiv themselves before that. That's mivoid yoim. But Ana ben Hashmoshes the Rabbi Yosi Kamina. But I, Rabbi Meir, maintain the ben Hashmoshes of Rabbi Yosi, which is just 1 moment before Tzeisach HaChavim. Do'omar Rabbi Yosi, that Rabbi Yosi said, Ben Hashmoshes keheref ayin, ze nichnas v'ze yoytzei, v'yefshar la'amod alov. So just 1 moment before the Tzeisach HaChavim, and that's when you can still then begin saying Kriya Shema Shel Arvis. Now the Gemara brings back what seems to be a contradiction. Kasha Rabbi Meir ad Rabbi Meir. The latter Brisa brings the opinion of Rabbi Meir that says that the Kohanim who are toivel themselves to eat truma, which is right before Tzeisach HaChavim, that is the earliest time to say Kriya Shema. And yet Rabbi Meir in the previous Brisa maintained differently. He said, when Bnei Adam begin their Suda on Erev Shabbos. So it's a contradiction, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Meir. Says the Gemara to answer, Trei Tanoi Alibo de Rabbi Meir. There are 2 different Tanoim. Each one maintains that Rabbi Meir said something else. Kasha de Rabbi Eliezer de Rabbi Eliezer. The Gemara now brings up a contradiction between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Eliezer himself. Because in the latter Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer said that the opinion of you can make Kriya Shema as early as they were Mekadesh the Yoim for Shabbos on Erev Shabbos, which is Ben Hashmashos, and yet Rabbi Eliezer L'chara in our Mishnah holds like the Chachamim. Nobody seems to argue on this. Both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Gamliel all agree with the Chachamim. Together, they say, so we have a contradiction in Rabbi Eliezer. Answers the Gemara similarly, Trei Tanoi Aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. There are 2 different Tanoim according to Rabbi Eliezer. One maintains that Rabbi Eliezer says one thing, and the other maintains that Rabbi Eliezer says something else. But now the Gemara gives an alternative answer to reconcile this contradiction. That which we thought all along, that Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion in the Mishnah that the earliest time you say Kriya Shema is Mishasha HaKohanim Nichnasin Le'echel B'Trumason. Now we're saying that's not true. Indeed, that which we brought Rabbi Eliezer was only until the end, the latter part, where you can say Kriya Shema. Until when can you say Kriya Shema? Ad Soif Ashmura Harishoina. But he never maintained that the earliest time to say Kriya Shema is what it states here in the Mishnah, Misha Shahai Kohanim Nichnasim Le'echol Bitrumasan.